So, I was told that you should never start a speech with a graph. So can we all just have a quick look? Looks pretty scientific, huh? I mean, it's from my favourite research paper called I Made It Up, and no one's going to argue with me because I've got the microphone. Also, if you've seen Dance Mums, you know you don't want to mess with a dance teacher. See the red dot up here? It's having a bit of a party on its own. It's not really sure why it's up there. It's not really sure, but it knows that it doesn't want to be where all the other dots are. It just wants to be just chilling by itself. And in case you haven't worked out, the dots symbolise people. You see, when I was a young dancer, I felt like this data up the top. It's me. When we were asked what company we'd like to go to after our studies, people would be like the Royal Ballet, the Paris Opera Ballet, the Australian Ballet, and when I was asked, I'd be like, well, I'd like to be part of any dance company as long as I'm dancing, but maybe I might go to uni afterwards, become a journalist. Yep, weirdo. So anyway, that's me messing up everyone's data. You see, we're told to find the line of best fit, and that's fine, but you're also told to then disregard the outlier. You see, I didn't want to be disregarded. I knew I loved dance, but I just didn't know why or what I wanted to do with it. This is me. I was about 3 or 4, because it's in black and white. I thought I was a snowflake, but my mum said I was a grasshopper. Go figure. And over the last couple of years, I have thought long and hard about what happened in between this moment and this moment here, where I was a little bit more serious, young adult dancer. And it comes down to what I think is the difference between when these photos were taken and the little snowflake grass-hopping child was that too many unnecessarily negative events happened. One time I was 12, a mother told me that even though I was a really good dancer, I would never be as skinny as her daughter. Kind of brutal, especially saying that to a 12-year-old. Another time I was competing in a dance competition, and a girl from my own class, I got into the finals and she didn't, so she just decided to snip the ribbons off my shoes, and I was devastated. And our dance teacher didn't do anything about it. And another time, we were told to perform a self-choreographed piece in front of a panel, and they said we had to think outside the box, be creative, and I thought, fabulous. I'm going to do photos, video, big installation on a wall behind me whilst I danced. Thought, awesome, told them my idea. They were like, why would you do that? And I was like, geeky Georgia was like, why not? It's going to look awesome. And then another time during my routine health assessment, I was told to just tone up a little bit. And this was in a very large institution that's very well recognised, and which basically in the dance world means code for, we legally can't tell you to lose weight, but you know, maybe just a couple of kilos. I mean, I think personally that I was pretty all right from dance standards. And then the cracker was when they said, oh, and your chest area is just developing a little bit. And I was like, my boobs? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm 15, so I'm pretty sure it's already a little bit late. They should have already kicked in, but if they're starting to kick in now, not much I can do about that. And then the final straw was when I had a Russian ballet teacher told me to turn up my leg, and she used her fingernails to scrape the inside of my thigh, and this is when it gets all a little bit serious, and she tore through my tights and drew a bit of blood, and I was like, oh, this is just not right. This is just, we can learn how to dance without this happening. And by this stage I was tired and I was moody and I was lethargic and incredibly sensitive. And the problem was that I had lost the reason why I was dancing anymore. So I decided to stop. I remember doing my last performance and being the little drama queen I was, stormed out of the theatre and threw my pointe shoes in the bin, and I was like, that's it. I'm done with this world. A couple of years later, and under a lot of suppressed anger, I wrote an article that was published on one of Australia's most popular, recognisable blogs, Mamma Mia. Basically, I was asked to expose the Australian Ballet School, and I ended up telling millions of readers to not send their daughters to ballet in case they reached the levels that I did, and that's the levels that I loathed. I thought, fabulous, this is my chance to make everyone aware. And about 70% of commenters agreed with me, said thank you for sharing your story. At least I now have an insight into what, if my daughter gets to that level, what she's up against. The remaining 30% slaughtered me. There were over 300 comments, and I read every single one. And of course I focused on the negative ones. Try taking over 300 comments to heart. Mia Friedman, who owns the site, sent me an email being like, Georgia, are you okay? Nope, not really. I was devastated. My own words that I had written, and I'd thought very carefully about this. As soon as it went up, it didn't sit right with me. I just wasn't comfortable with it anymore. After a couple of years at university, I started teaching dance to school-aged children. When I first started teaching, I thought, well, this is better than waiting tables. A couple of pliés, a couple of tendus, kids love me. But then gradually, I became very attached to my students, and I became attached to their progress. And I heard a good song on the radio when I was driving, and I'd be choreographing to it in my head, which is actually really dangerous. Shouldn't do that. But I would do it, and I couldn't help myself. And the thing was that I had become passionate about dance again, and I didn't even realize it. It kind of like snuck up on me. But this time, I was more prepared, and I had an idea. What if I opened my dream studio, the one that I never found when I was growing up? One that understands that every dancer is unique as every child. That doesn't try and put everyone in a box, and that doesn't tolerate bullying, parents and students. So I'm sitting on the train one day on my way home from uni, and I wrote a business plan. And I also started to think about the kinds of people that I admired, what I enjoyed doing, what inspired me. And the proposal only took about an hour. Well, that's from Brisbane to Gold Coast, an hour. And I guess that's how quickly things can happen when you start seeing clearly. But the ideas and the planning kept flowing for the next couple of years. Not long after graduating, I travelled to America, and I did a couple of classes at Steps, which is a really famous studio in New York. And the first thing that I noticed when I walked in was that everyone was so different. There was different races, different colours, different styles, different body types. Just everyone was just so vastly different, and I felt right at home because it had been a couple of years and I wasn't exactly in the pictures back kind of state. And despite everyone's difference, they all had something in common. They're all focused, and they were all there to learn, and no one was telling them they were too fat, too skinny, not good enough. And this was the inspiration for the final ingredient of my business plan, why I was doing all of this. So here are my studio ethos. No suffering for your art, only physical and mental challenges. No tyrant dance teachers. I'd like to think I'm kind of cool. Kind of, children are able to come talk to me, then they're like, oh my God, don't talk to Miss Georgia. Only healthy, nourishing food, no Coke and cigarette diets. It's just so old-fashioned in my opinion. No battered bodies, only strong athletic ones. No blood, only pink flushed cheeks from working hard. No stereotypes, no competitiveness, and only students walking into class every day knowing that they're becoming the best dancer that they can possibly be. I've found my why again. Why you do something is way more important than what you do. Why is a bigger driver of success than starting with the what? Let's move away from dancing for a second. Mac computers do everything that PCs do. The only difference is PCs say, we have computers, they do this, this, and this, and you should buy it. Mac, on the other hand, Apple computers, they say, you are a sexy, sleek, sophisticated, and unique individual. And we've made a computer to suit your sexy and sophisticated lifestyle. And that's why we all buy them and why you all probably have iPhones in your pockets, because you're pretty sexy and sophisticated. People who start with the why have the ability to inspire and make change. And people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Would you like to see my why? These guys. They're pretty cute. That one on the end's a bit of a rat bag, and no matter how many times I tell them to put their hair in buns, they're little, it's cute, I let it go. And these guys. In my experience, you don't choose what you're passionate about. It kind of chooses you. And I initially went to university to become a journalist, and look where I ended up. But I don't look back on it as if it was an unnecessary detour. It was a very necessary detour. Halfway through my degree, when I started planning for my studio, I decided to focus more on the PR and business aspects of my degree. And I know I've spoken a lot about dancing, but this why rule applies to absolutely everything you do in life. And if you think about a hobby or an interest that you enjoy doing, why do you do it? And if the answer is because my mum makes me, then I'm sorry, but your mum is wrong, and you probably shouldn't be doing it. Which brings me to my final point. If you choose something that you love and believe in, you'll never have a job. You'll only ever have work to do. And I've clearly decided to make a bit of a change in my dance world, stand up for something that I believe in. And right now, it's working in my little small bubble at my studio. And I'm just going to keep going. And everyone says that if you love what you do, then you'll never have to work a day in your life. Well, thank God I love what I do, because deciding to start my own business, it's a big step, and I currently am working 7 days a week. But I feel very fulfilled, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Thank you.